Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. How about that? Before I get up, the teleprompter fell down. That's great. Great going, fellas, back there. Then they want to know why I didn't pay the bill. You know, I get a lot of heat. I got a teleprompter that's gone. This one's almost gone, but we've been there before. Supposing that happened to Biden, you know what happens? He'd go like this. Bye. He'd leave. I'll stay here with you for an hour. We'll have some fun. 2 days ago, it was announced that inflation in April continued to rage at a brutal 3.4 annual rate. Nobody can believe it because it's just not stopping it. That's above the probably 30 points that you picked up over the last couple of years. This is a level that people have not seen before. Consumer prices just hit an all-time high. And since crooked Joe Biden, and he is crooked, he's the worst president in the history of the country. How we can be 1 point down or 2 points up in Minnesota to this guy, I don't know. There's only one way it can happen. They cheat. That's the only way. That's the only way. Some people like it, some people don't, but that's the way it is. Sorry to tell you. And I never use the word folks. You know why? That's all he uses. Do you ever watch? Folks, folks, folks. It's a nervous habit. I did a play-by-play of his State of the Union address. Man, was he jacked. But he used the word folks like 40 times, folks. I used to use it. I used this word nice, 1 or 2 times in a speech. But groceries are up 22%, eggs are up 50%, electricity is up 40, 50, 60%, gasoline is up 56%. Car insurance, you can't even get it. It's up 52% if it's available, and then if you need it, they don't give it to you. They fight you like hell. And meanwhile, real wages are down by almost 5%. This is what we have. This is Bidenomics. He thought it was such a good term. Then to explain, no, it's a disaster. No, inflation has eaten, it's a country buster. And we have inflation like we haven't seen in, I guess, 78 years, but I think it's probably longer than that. That's why this November, the people of Minnesota are going to tell crooked Joe Biden, right? The apprentice, you're fired. Get out of here. Get out. You did a lousy job. Worst president in history. And think of these numbers. These numbers are staggering. And, if somebody got a little bit of a wage increase, it doesn't matter because the prices have gone up so much. It's a sad thing. Now they want to go to an EV. Everybody has to have an electric car. Isn't that wonderful? They don't go far. By the way, that ends on the first day. First day. And if you want to buy it, you can buy one. I'm not knocking it. If you want to go, 3-4 miles and then back home, plug it in, get ready for the purchase of a newspaper the next day. You want to go down buy a newspaper like in the old days every once in a while. But no, we're going to end it right away, immediately. And I think people, if they want to buy an electric car, I think it's great. But they have to be able to buy gasoline powered. They have to be able to buy hybrids. The hybrids are good, the hybrids are good. But the electric, they don't go far. They're very expensive, and they're all going to be made in China. And now they want to make electric trucks, and the trucks are a disaster because the battery is so big it takes up half of your payload. To go to California, you need 6 stops. And you have no chargers. Other than that, it's very good. If you go with like an 18-wheeler, you can go from New York to California without a stop. And it's something I never even heard before. So one of the truckers told me this. They're begging for help because they're going to be put out of business. They're all going to be put out of business. He said, with a big truck, you buy a gorgeous, I won't even use the names, but you know the names of these companies. And you have this massive tank with diesel fuel. And as it goes along, it gets better and better because you're burning fuel and it gets lighter and lighter. With a battery, it just stays the same weight. You just got to lift that battery. But they're too big. The batteries are too big. They don't work. It's not something that's even feasible. But these people don't want to hear about it. They don't want to talk about it. In 3 minutes, a sane person, if they were in government, could be talked out of going all electric trucks because the batteries are so big and so heavy, they take up half of your payload. And in 3 minutes, but they don't want to hear about it. You say you have to stop 6 times instead of no times. They say, we don't care. I mean, who could say that? These are radical lunatics that we're dealing with. They're lunatics. And now they want to go all electric army tanks, okay? Do you believe that? So that when we go in and blast the crap out of an enemy that we have and that we hate, and sometimes, you know, we should be there. Many times we shouldn't be there, to be honest with you. But we blast the hell out of an enemy. We do it in an environmentally friendly way. What are we doing? And now it turns out, you know, we make the best tanks in the world. And now it turns out that in terms of army tanks, you have to put a truck on the back of the army tank because the battery is so big, it's going to have to tow a truck. And it still doesn't go far, and it still costs twice as much, and it's not effective. But it does keep a clean environment, which is very important. Because I know up in a place called Minnesota, they like clean air. And you know what? You had the cleanest air in history for 4 years using natural gas. Trump, natural gas and clean coal. You did a terrible job, Crooked Joe. Is inflation catastrophe is in effect a colossal tax on American families? We will call it the Biden inflation tax. This is a tax that you don't know about, Tom. I just came up with it. Like, it's the biggest tax in history. It's called an inflation tax. It's about 50%. This is like going to Congress and raising your head for a 50% tax. That's what it is. When I left office, and we had virtually no inflation. We had nothing. We had only success. Yet in the past 3 years, it's an amazing thing. Yet in the past 3 years, the taxes cost us an average. If you think the average Minnesota family is a staggering $28,000. Think of that. Who could think of that? $28,000 in tax. And the Biden price hikes are continuing to drain $1,165 from the typical Minnesota family budget every single month. I mean, think of these numbers. These numbers are staggering. And, you know, if somebody got a little bit of a wage increase, it doesn't matter because the prices have gone up so much. It's a sad thing. Now they want to go to an EV. Everybody has to have an electric car. Isn't that wonderful? They don't go far. By the way, that ends on the first day. But can you imagine if you miss a couple of days of work, can you imagine you can't pay your bills? I mean, we have the highest percentage of that we've ever had. And Biden blamed his economic disaster on companies shrinking the size of their Snicker bars, okay? Can you believe that? But you know, it's a funny thing. I don't know if you can see it out there. Does anybody have good eyes out there? Because this is, okay, so I just got this today. Somebody handed it to me. So weird, and not as a joke. I said, anybody have any Tic Tacs? And the guy said, yeah, I have one. Look at the size of that sucker. Can you see that, Pete? This is called Biden Tic Tacs. Can you see it, Tom? This costs more money than the one that was like 10 times bigger. This is inflation. That's a perfect. The guy actually handed me, if you have any Tic Tacs, yeah, here, take mine, sir. I said, what the hell is that? I'm never going to lose this. This is going to be a part of our... But it's true, I never talk this way because, you know, I used to treat Biden with a little respect. Not a lot, but a little. More than he deserves. And you know, talk about he didn't do a good job. But now I say he's the worst president. He's incompetent. He's not a smart person. He has no idea. He can't find the stairs to a stage. See all the stairs we have? We got more stairs here. They're all over the place. How the hell do you not find them? You can walk in any direction, and yet he... You ever watch him? He goes like this. And then and so far he's doing good because there's a stair over there, but then he walks into a wall and stuff. Thank God for the Secret Service. They usually run off, take them. This is what we're running against. How the hell do they get 50% of the vote? They start off with a big advantage. Remember that. They start off with a big advantage. They start off with, you know, certain votes that they get almost automatically. But we're going to be getting a lot of those votes this time. I think we're actually going to be getting a lot of those union votes that they typically get. I don't know these people. I think they just want to make your lives miserable and destroy our country. It's so crazy. I mean, you know, seriously, like, why would they want an open border? Why do they want high interest rates? Why do they want to quadruple your taxes, which is what is going to happen? All those things we talked about, I mean, it's going to happen. Why do they want to have men playing in women's sports? They want men. You got to look at the weightlifting records. A record that stood for 18 years. 18 years it stood, it was solid. They just couldn't break it. Those beautiful, powerful, extremely strong women. There weren't too many men could lift but these are men, but extremely strong women. And they were looking, and they put a quarter of an ounce, think of that, a quarter of an ounce there, a quarter of an ounce there on the barbell. And they get up and they lift that sucker. They're gonna do it. Mom's in the first row, right where you are, beautiful woman. And she's so proud of her daughter. My daughter's gonna lift that. Mom, I'm ready. I've been working 10 years for this. I'm ready. Olympic tryouts, right? Then she gets it up. Mom, I don't know, Mom. This is a heavy sucker. Oh, Mom, I can't do it. Boom. Can't do it. Couldn't do it. Just that little extra they couldn't do. This guy who transitioned, he transitioned. Thank you very much. He comes in. Have you lifted before? No, not much. He goes, how much is it to it? You know, I should be able to do that. He walks up to the... They put 30 more pounds on. Well, I mean, what did he break about? Like hundreds of pounds, Tom. And then you allow this to happen in Congress? The worst is the swimming. How about the swimming? Right? How about the swimming records? These are records that women won't be breaking maybe in about 400 years if everything goes well. But with the kind of idiots we have running this country, not a lot of people will be left because the power of weaponry today is very scary. We could very well end up in the next 5 months in a World War III because we have incompetent people. He's an incompetent person. Joe Biden is incompetent. And let me just tell you, I would have never said, that's a strong statement to say the president is, he's grossly incompetent. Everything he's done, look at Afghanistan, the way they left. I was leaving Afghanistan, we would leave with dignity and strength and our equipment, and we're going to stay in Bagram. And we were taking the soldiers out last, right? Last. You don't take them out first. We took them out first, and then they were free to have, they had a free-for-all. But we're going to keep Bagram, the big air base. You know who has Bagram right now? It's only 1 hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons. You know who has it now? China has it now. The guy is just a horrible thing. So when he did that, I said, now the gloves are off. I can say anything I want. Think of it. Alphonse Capone, the great has anyone ever heard of Al Capone? Scarface, has anyone? This was not a nice person. Even Doug would have a hard time living with him. You would say, let's get the hell out of here. This guy's dangerous. No, if he didn't like you for dinner, he would kill you. You would never be found, let's put it this way. Do you have any wetlands around or swamps? Because he liked wetlands, you know, they just dumped him in the wetlands. But Al Capone was indicted less than me. I was indicted over a short period of time, 4 times. My whole life, I never even heard of the word, and now all of a sudden I'm like a professional. And my father, who was a straight guy, he was a straight arrow, no games, he was all business. He was just a good man, but he was all business. He's looking down right now with my beautiful mother, and they're saying, my son got indicted 4 times. That's more than Alphonse Capone. What the hell's going on? That country's going haywire. No, but they've used this. They've weaponized the DOJ. And these are local prosecutors, but they've weaponized local prosecutors. They've taken people from the DOJ and they put them into local offices. They've weaponized the whole thing. And if you're a normal but a very good politician and you get a subpoena, you get some form of a grand jury notice, you're sort of out of business. You know what you say? Like hundreds have said before, I will go home now to my family. I will work on my relationship with my family. And then they go, you know, it's all disinformation. His biggest disinformation, he's a non-athlete, okay? I'm a very good golfer. I'm a very good golfer. I really am. Won 29 club championships. It's a lot, 29 club championships. And he can't play. And he said the other day, it's all disinformation. I'll play Trump anytime. I'll give him 3 aside. He's going to give me 3 aside. Did you ever see him swing? He's like this. The guy, I don't believe he can hit a ball 50 yards. I know sports very well, and I know golf very well, and I know good golfers. I can look at a guy take a practice swing before the round starts. I can tell you whether or not he or she can play. This guy has no, and he said, they asked him what his handicap is. I'm a 6.2. You know, 6.2 is a very good player. He's a 6.2. It's got to be that extra little .2. You know, like I've never even heard of it. I played only about 40 frickin' years. I've never heard of a 6.2. I've heard of a 6. I've heard of a 7. But I've never heard of a 6.2. But he wants to make it like accurate. You know, like in other words, like it exists. He's all about disinformation. Pilots come in, he said, I used to fly a plane. Truckers come in, I used to drive a truck. People come in from Minnesota, I used to live in Minnesota. Right? He is so full of shit, this guy. Terrible. To be honest with you, Crooked Joe came in and turned our country into a dumping ground for other nations. They dump everything right into our country. In Venezuela, violent crime was 67% 2 months ago. It's now 72%. It's down. Violent crime in Venezuela is down 72% because they're taking their gangs and inmates and criminals and drug dealers and mental patients and people from all sorts of institutions that are trouble, and they deposit them in the wonderful USA. They're dumping everybody into the USA. Pretty soon we're going to say, let's go for a vacation to Venezuela because it's safer than the United States. And I'm serious. It is so terrible what they're doing. They're dumping from all over the world. The Congo, they come from the Congo, from prisons in the Congo, in Africa. But they're coming from Africa, they're coming from Asia, they're coming from all over the world, they're coming from the Middle East. And they're coming from really bad places. And they're putting them in our beautiful country. They're destroying our country. This idiot, this stupid, stupid man is destroying our country. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Just days ago, an illegal alien was arrested in the sanctuary state of California. Isn't that wonderful, sanctuary? Sounds so nice, isn't it? Sanctuary. And charged with sadistically raping 2 women last week in the back of a windowless van that police said was disgustingly outfitted as a, quote, a rape dungeon on wheels. That's what it was. They went around raping women all over the place. Nobody did anything about it. Detectives believe this monster had many more victims whom he drove late at night into remote mountain areas and in many cases would kill them. When I return to the White House, we will stop the plunder, rape, slaughter, and destruction of our American suburbs, cities, and towns. We're going to stop it fast. He'd be very good. We have a lot of them would be good, Doug, right? We have a lot of good people. But as you may know, in addition to the millions of people pouring across our border, Joe Biden is now reportedly planning to bring in massive numbers of Gazans from the Middle East and resettle them in American communities. I can't believe you don't, with Tlaib and AOC +3 and all of these things, you don't like that. I'm surprised in Minnesota. I thought you were a very liberal place. I thought you were very liberal. I'm so surprised, so disappointed. You've had enough, right? You've had enough. They're saying in Minnesota, I've done my share. Let's end this stuff. Let's end it. How about when they were flying them? Did you see a guy caught 2 months ago? Everyone's, you know, they're pouring through. But then we found out that they're flying them over the border, freely flying thousands and thousands of people over the borders into little towns and states, great states, that they didn't do anything to deserve this, and they're being swamped now. I just don't understand the thinking, you know? We're really, you know, some people say you're conservative. I say, yeah, I'm conservative, I guess, but I'm really more of a common sense person. I think we're the party of common sense. I'd almost rather... and that means you need borders, you need a strong military, you need good education, try and get low interest rates, low taxes, but basically it's sort of mostly common sense. Like, we just went over men and women's sports. We don't want to have men and women's sports. It's actually very dangerous. You know, women are being very badly hurt. Now they want to do boxing. They want to have women in boxing. You can't do these things, okay? You can't do these things. And professional boxers know it very well because they play around. They say, you can't have women in boxing. But they actually want to have women in boxing. The whole thing is crazy. And I think, you know, we're really the party of common sense. I'm making a speech in a week to the... let's see, what would I call it? A couple of parties that generally don't with us. They vote for that party and I'm making a speech. It's a little bit of a secret right now, but I'm making a speech to a certain group of people that get 3 or 4%. You know what I'm talking about, right? The libertarians, they're great people, and they are based largely on common sense. And it's a sad thing. It's a very sad thing. But we have to be very, very vigilant. Look, we have a country that's very fragile. We have a country that could very quickly end up in World War III because we have stupid people running our country. We were guaranteed no wars. All of these things wouldn't have happened. Think of it. Ukraine wouldn't have happened. Inflation wouldn't have happened. Israel attack wouldn't have happened. None of it would have happened. President Xi wouldn't be flying planes all over the place over Taiwan. He wasn't going to do that. He would have never done that with me as president. And everybody admits it. Even the Democrats admit it. But it's no wonder Joe Biden and his thugs are so desperate to stop us, and they know that we are the only ones who can stop them. You know, this MAGA movement, Make America Great Again, Joe. You know the way he says, we're going to stop the MAGA movement. He doesn't have any idea what MAGA means. No, he has no idea what MAGA means. We will stop the MAGA movement. Pause. Oh, pause. Remember that one? This is what we're dealing with. And you know, in the debate, you know this, we'll have debates. I think, you know, we're going to have this debate. We'll start off. If he makes it through the debate, and I think he will, they'll say it was the finest debate performance in history. There was no way that Trump could have competed with the intellect. This is the greatest ever. I watched after that horrible State of the Union speech on CNN and MSDNC, where they go, that's MS, Democratic National Committee, for those of you that aren't very, MSDNC. It is MSDNC. Terrible people. Terrible, terrible, sick people. But I watched where they were saying how great this was. This was the greatest performance since FDR. You know, FDR had the golden tone. And he would sit up and he'd give a State of the Union speech. FDR, beautiful voice, beautiful, very highly educated guy, beautiful tone. We will fight, and nobody will beat us. We will fight and fight and fight. And, you know, he do it so beautifully. And then Joe Biden, you ever notice he's always like, how the hell did this ever happen to our country? He's always coughing, but it's not like a cough. He puts his hand up. Then he walks out and starts shaking people's hands. I don't want to. Do you ever notice how many people don't want to shake his hand? The people don't want to shake his hand. It's disgusting. The radical left Democrats rigged the presidential election in 2020, and we are not going to allow them to rig the presidential election in 2024. I took on communist China like no administration in history, bringing hundreds of billions of dollars pouring into our treasury when no other president had gotten even 10 cents from, not 10 cents from China. And I think I made people aware that China is a threat, certainly an economic threat. And we took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China. I then gave $28 billion, as I said, to the farmer. And in my next term, I will pass the Trump Reciprocal Trade Act. You know what that is? If China or any other country makes us pay a single dime, if they make us pay, let's say 100 or 200% tariff, which they do, we will make them pay a reciprocal tariff of 100 or 200% right back. In other words, you screw us and we screw you. Don't you think, you know, I watch Israel and I watch those rockets go up, 300 rockets go up, and virtually every one of them is knocked down. Well, we're a big target, and the level of power, the level of power of these weapons, especially the nuclear weapons, the power is so incredible. We deserve to have a dome like other countries have domes, like Israel has a dome. Think of Israel without the dome, without the Iron Dome, or whatever you want to call it, but that's what it is. And it was largely manufactured, and it was largely conceived by us. We can do something that was so incredible. It really will be a safety net, and I think we deserve to have it. And again, it's made in the USA. it really works. I mean, they shot down I think every missile, maybe one got through, but they shot down close to 300 missiles. Now think of what would happen if they didn't have it. 300 missiles, you might not even have an Israel right now. We need that same kind of protection for ourselves. We have to have it, and we'll do it, and we'll do it at the highest level. It'll be an amazing thing. We're going to give our police back their protection, and we're going to give them back their respect. As president, when the rioters came to burn down Minneapolis, I insisted on sending in the National Guard to save the city. I saved your city. Remember though, Velchi. Remember Velchi? This is a peaceful protest. This is largely peaceful. The entire city was burning down behind you. Remember the scene? The fire looked like it went for miles. He's saying, this is a peaceful protest. And then somebody threw something, hit him on the leg, and he went down, right? He went down. He's down. He's down. It's a peaceful. It was real peaceful. You lost half your damn city. If you didn't have me as president, you wouldn't have Minneapolis today. And you wouldn't have had a couple of other cities that we saved, or little beautiful areas that we saved. We saved them for you. But what, I'll never forget the scene of this guy screaming that this is peaceful, it's peaceful, and people are throwing everything at him, including bullets. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Where are they coming from? Under my leadership, we will stand up to the radical Marxist DAs who have set loose thousands of dangerous, horrible, dangerous criminals onto our streets. We're going to rebuild our cities into beacons of hope, safety, and beauty better than they've ever been before. We will take over the horribly run capital of our nation in Washington, D.C., and clean up, renovate, and rebuild our capital so that it's no longer a nightmare of murder and crime, but rather it will become the most beautiful capital anywhere in the world, and it will be safe for people of Minnesota to go and see those wonderful monuments to monumental people. It will be the most beautiful capital in the world. On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and any other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto the lives of our children. And I will not give one penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate. And as you've already heard tonight, I will keep men immediately out of women's sports. Is that okay? I will fully uphold our great but very under siege Second Amendment. We're going to withhold the powers and the beauty of our Second Amendment. We need our Second Amendment probably more than we've ever needed it before. It's under siege. Tomorrow I go to Texas, I go to Dallas, and I'm speaking before the NRA, and there's a rumor that they're going to give me their full endorsement, so that's a nice endorsement. And as you've already heard tonight, I will keep men immediately out of women's sports. Is that okay? I will fully uphold our great but very under siege Second Amendment. We're going to withhold the powers and the beauty of our Second Amendment. We need our Second Amendment probably more than we've ever needed it before. It's under siege. Tomorrow I go to Texas, I go to Dallas, and I'm speaking before the NRA, and there's a rumor that they're going to give me their full endorsement, so that's a nice endorsement. I used to say 5. This was 6 months ago. Now I say 10, and I think I can make it probably 20. If you took the 10 worst presidents in the history of the United States and added them up, they would not have done near the destruction to our country as crooked Joe Biden and the Biden administration have done. It's true. You take the 10 worst presidents in the history of our country, the 10 worst, they will not have done the damage that this guy has done to our country. Just on the border alone, what he's done. Afghanistan, the most embarrassing day in the history of our country. That's not even possible to think a thing like that could happen. He took the soldiers out first. No, you stupid guy. You take the soldiers out last. And I was all set to do it. We were leaving with dignity and strength. 21 years was enough, but we were keeping Bagram because it's 1 hour away, as I said, from China's, where they make their nuclear weapons. But we were going to leave with dignity and strength. Instead, we left $85 billion worth of equipment behind. We lost America. We left Americans. Right now, they're behind. Right now, there's hundreds of Americans that didn't get out. And we lost 13 unbelievable soldiers and 38 horrifically wounded that nobody ever talks about. Horrifically wounded. No legs, no arms, the face, everything. And that's what happened to us because we're stupid. We were run by stupid people. You know, I dealt with the head of the Taliban, which is really the ones that do the killing and the ones that run Afghanistan. I dealt with, his name was Abdul. And I said, Abdul, don't kill our people anymore. Don't do it. And I can't really explain it. This is too tough. But I said, we will hit you so hard, harder than we've ever hit anybody, Abdul. Don't do it. But why do you send me a picture of my home? He said to me. He said, Abdul, you have to ask one of your wives on that. I'm not giving it to you. But I said, we will hit you so hard. And you know what? For 18 months, we didn't have one soldier killed in Afghanistan. Not even a soldier shot at. And then we had a rigged election. Biden took over. I'd never done that if it was me, but we would have never given him the power to do it. The other thing that did was energy. The energy went up to close to $100 a barrel, so all of a sudden he's making a fortune by going into a war. And we allowed that to happen because we had people running that are grossly incompetent. And don't kid yourself, the biggest risk we have is the next 5 months. We have 5 months of danger to our country. We could end up in World War III because of this lunatic. We could end up in World War III, and I mean it. And one thing you'll never have with me, you'll never have a war. You know, Viktor Orban, he's the head of, you know that, Hungary, very tough guy, considered to be very tough. He's the prime minister of Hungary. They said, what's going on with the world? The world is coming between Israel and Ukraine and China flying planes all over Taiwan. You can see they're just itching to take that one. What's going on? He said, only one thing, Trump isn't here. If Trump was here, none of this would be happening. He said they were afraid of Trump. I don't want to use that language because I don't want people to think, oh, they're afraid of Trump. But they respected me. But he said, no, Trump, they were afraid of Trump. They didn't know what the hell to do with Trump. They would have never done it. And it is true. There's no way Putin would have gone in. There's no way she would be doing what he's doing right now. And October 7th, that would have never happened. And you know what else? A little something to add on. You wouldn't have had inflation. We had no inflation because our energy prices were low. The energy caused the inflation when it went up so much. So if you want to save America, register, get an absentee or a mail-in ballot, vote early, and vote on election day. You have to. Whether you vote early or not, you know, people are disputing, well, I want to vote on Tuesday. A lot of Republicans want, but whether you do it early, vote on Tuesday, you got to make sure you go and vote. You got to get out and vote. You got to get people that love us. They love everything we say, but they're just not used to voting. They're just not used to it. They have to do it. You know, it's an amazing thing. People that have guns, people that legitimately have guns, they love guns and they use guns for the right purpose. And these are not criminals, but they tend to vote very little, and yet they have to vote for us. There's nobody else to vote for because the Democrats want to take their guns away, and they will take their guns away. So you got to get all your friends that love us, respect us, but they just typically don't vote. Members of the NRA, that's why I'm going to be talking to the NRA tomorrow. I say, you got to get out and vote. This year election season in Minnesota begins on September 20th and goes all the way into November 5th. Isn't that ridiculous, by the way? You know what that does? It gives them the right to cheat because all those days, all those weeks and weeks and weeks, and those ballots are sitting on the floor with water pouring all over them. They shovel them. You ever seen it? It's like we're like a third world country. This is going to be the most important election in the history of our country. I believe that so much. I used to say it with 2016, and I believed it, and then we straightened it out. We had a great economy. We rebuilt our military. We did so much. We created Space Force. We did so much. And I didn't have to say it in 2020. I didn't consider that the most important election. This is the most important election by far that we've ever had. Much more important than 2016. And in conclusion, today we're taking on some of the most menacing forces and vicious opponents, people that our people have ever seen. We've never seen anything like what's happening. But no matter how hateful and corrupt the communists and criminals we're fighting against may be, you must never forget this is not a nation that belongs to them. This is a nation that totally belongs to you. It belongs to you. This is your home. This is your heritage. And our American liberty is your God-given right. From Rochester to Duluth, from Marshall to Minneapolis, and from St. Cloud to St. Paul, this state has pioneered. I mean, you have been pioneered by men and women who braved the wilderness and the frontier to build a life for themselves and their families, and they love your state and they love our country. They were farmers and miners and manufacturers and shipbuilders, soldiers and lumberjacks, and they helped build this country into the single greatest nation in the history of the world. But now we are a nation in decline. We are a failing nation. We are a nation that has lost its confidence and willpower and strength. Think of that. We are a nation that has lost its confidence. But we are not going to allow this horror to continue. Less than 4 years ago, we were a great nation. We were respected all over the world. Everybody respected us, and we will soon be a great nation again. It was hardworking patriots like you who built this country, and it's hardworking patriots like you who are going to save our country. We will fight for America like no one has ever fought before. We don't have a choice. 2024 is our final battle. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media. We will drain the swamp. And we will liberate our country from these tyrants and villains once and for all. Thank you. Thank you very much. Like those patriots before us, we will not bend, we will not break, we will not yield, and we will never give in, we will never give up, and we will never, ever, ever back down. With your support, we will go on to victory, the likes of which no one has ever seen before. We will evict the worst president in the history of our country from the White House on November 5th, 2024. The great silent majority is rising like never before, and under our leadership, the forgotten man and woman will be forgotten no longer. Like 4 years ago, you were not forgotten, but you are forgotten now. We are one movement, one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God, and together we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. We will make America free again. And we will make America great again. Thank you, everybody.